Yo, what's up everybody? My name is Peter and thank you so much for clicking on this video, which is a follow-up on how to retire early episode which I made over here. Yen and I were truly blessed to be able to retire at a young age back in June 2019, and currently we're traveling all around the world making YouTube videos as a hobby. And this right here over here is the amazing Angkor Wat complex. What I wanted to share with you guys is some tips on how to figure out how much you need to be able to support a lifestyle of retirement. I'm also going to share with you guys a couple of life hacks which will make your money go further. Alright, let's get into the video. I believe what I share with you next will empower you to change your life significantly. How much money do you need to retire? If I ask 10 different people the same question, I guarantee you I'm going to get 10 extremely different answers back. And most likely, the person isn't even going to know how to answer that question because a lot of people just simply don't even think about it. Now, the amount is different for every single person because it all comes back down to that key question, what makes you happy? For someone living a very simple life, the amount that they're going to need to retire is going to be extremely different from someone who needs a lot of material possessions. People think that you're only aiming for an amount to be able to retire, but let's think about that for a minute. You have no idea how long you're going to live for. If Yen and I, for example, said we needed $1 million to be able to retire, and we actually spent $50,000 a year, well, if we did a math equation, 1 million divided by 50,000, that means it's going to last us 20 years. And we're only 34 right now, so that means by the time we're 54 years old, we're going to be completely out of money. Now that makes no sense because what if we lived to 80, 90, 100? We'd be totally screwed because we'd have no money. So what I'm saying to you is not simply about the amount that you're going to need to retire. The true secret of retirement is passive income. Passive income is being able to generate an amount without having to do anything. It's just magically, sustainably refreshing itself constantly so that you've got that pool of money that you're going to be able to use. And the simplest example of passive income is, say you had a $300,000 home. If you rented that $300,000 home out and got, say, $12,000 a year, you'd be getting $12,000 of passive income. You don't have to do anything. That money constantly refreshes every single year, and it's generating 4% return on assets. We're going to refer back to passive income multiple times in this video, and let's just for simplicity's sake say that it's always going to be 4%. I know there are different factors such as risk, economics, and portfolio management that can make it go up or down, but we're not going to cover that in this video. In a future video, I will cover that though. So now it's time to head over to the next section, which is how much do you actually going to need to retire? To help you calculate how much you're going to need to retire, the first step, of course, is to ask yourself what makes you happy. Because if you think about it, whatever you have stashed up at the point that you say, I quit, that's going to be the lifestyle that you sustain for the rest of your life. And that's a really daunting thing to think about. For Yen and I, when we thought about that, if we had enough money to be able to travel the world full time and return to New Zealand once a year, that would be the perfect life for us. And what you need to do to figure out how much you're going to spend in a year is to take everything into account. So your accommodation, the amount of food you need to consume in an entire year, transport, air tickets. If you plan on having any children, you need to think about the children expenditures as well. And if you're supporting any other family members, you also need to think about them too. And what you need to do is you need to add up all of these expenses together and work out a number that's totaling for the entire year. For this video, I'm going to use a made-up number, which is $30,000 in terms of expenditure for a year. And remember earlier on, I said that a $300,000 house could generate an income of about $12,000 or 4% return a year. Now, assuming that whatever assets that we have, it's always going to be able to generate a 4% return per year. What we're going to do now is work out a magic equation. Now, taking that $30,000 yearly expense, we can divide it by the 4% rate of return. And what we're going to be able to get is the magic number of how much you need to retire. And here it is. $750,000. That's the amount that you're going to need to retire if you had an expense of $30,000. Now, of course, for you at home, whatever your expenses are, they're probably going to be a little bit different than $30,000, but that's the magic equation that you're going to need. Knowing that $750,000 is the minimum that you need, you could take that amount and put it in property or stocks or even in term deposits in the bank, and as long as it generates that 4% return, you're going to be able to cover your $30,000 a year lifestyle. I've now shown you the amount that you need to retire with this magic equation, and that gives you a starting point on figuring out this for yourself. I personally have a spreadsheet that I've been looking at for the last 13 years to figure out what we needed in order to say, I quit. Also, I don't know which country you live in, and so there are things that you need to include for taxes as such, and so you're going to need to make those adjustments for yourself. The next part of the video is going to be life hacks. For the final section of this video, I wanted to share with you guys some life hacks that can make your money go further, and it all comes back to that key question again, what makes you happy? Because if you think about it, the more material possessions that you desire and the more family people that you need to take care of, the longer it most likely is going to take for you to be able to retire. A lot of these life hacks is going to be centered around letting go of those material desires that you may have. For myself personally, that was really hard because I've always been into JDM cars and I've always really wanted an NSX or a GTR, something like that. But for me, when I really thought about it, what you're going to do at retirement is you want to lower those expenses as much as possible in that magic equation so that you don't run into the big stash of money that you have. And having ongoing costs like an old JDM car, it's going to ruin those savings, and you never know what might happen, so it just wasn't a smart choice. So thinking about things like that, you need to be really careful on the big purchases that you're going to make before you retire, and you definitely need to make it before you reach that point where you say I quit, because in retirement it's all about being debt free and having passive income, not having debt and having passive expenses. These days it's very popular for people to live in tiny homes or even camper vans and travel that way. So a lot of people who did used to live in the city, what they would do now is either sell the apartment that they had or the house that they had in the city and move out somewhere else, because you get a lot more cheaper accommodation, and with the leftover money what you could do is support the lifestyle that you have. Let's look at a real life example. This apartment in my home city of Auckland goes for $700K. 1 bedroom with a car park, whereas this 2-bedroom house in Dunedin, a smaller city of New Zealand, costs half of that, but you get a backyard as well. An alternative to this is if you just rent out the home that you have in a city area and then live outside the city area and be able to generate passive income from the rental. Yen and I were also blessed to be able to grow up in a country where the power of the Kiwi dollar is able to go a lot further in other countries, especially in Asia. For example, when we travel to Vietnam, a meal might only cost us $1 to $5, but back home in New Zealand it will cost you $15 to $20. So it just ended up a much more affordable option for us to make our money go further. You can also work on a partially retired status these days. You're not always tied to a desk job. You can do things like being an English teacher, graphic designer, or developer, which allows you the freedom of traveling parts of the world and at the same time making some income. Unfortunately, you are limited in the amount of variety of different jobs that there are, but hey, at least it gives you that freedom. And you know what? You could even be a YouTuber if you wanted to. And there you have it. Those are some of the biggest life hacks that I can share with all of you guys without diving into an income generating portfolio, which I'll cover in a future video. If you've ever dreamed of financial freedom, then you need to start now. And if you found this video useful, and if you know someone else who might also find this video useful, definitely share it with them. Smash the like and subscribe button. We'll see you on plenty more videos like this in the future. See ya.